Okay, so this is a continuation of the chapter number 3 of the book of Seven Gates of Righteous Knowledge of Rabbi Moshe, Weiner, and Dr. Michael Schulman. This book is different in the format and how it's written on the book of the Noahide Code. So in simple words, I will put it like this. The Noahide Code is what we call in the Jewish lexicon a Shulchan Aruch, meaning what is the law to proceed, the practical, concrete action law to proceed according to the sources of the sages of Israel and how to do the proper things. We spoke about this in a little bit in last class. So it's a different approach. Imagine your approach, or taking a book of laws and a book of where you need to learn the proper laws to understand these laws and then to apply them in the very practice. This is one thing. Another thing is the purpose of this book. The purpose of this book is to bring what I'm calling the Noahide theology. What is the spirituality behind all the laws, the 7 Noah laws, and their different details? What is the thing that a person that wants to live a Noahide lifestyle? What are the concepts? How he should approach the life and his own reflection of life from the Torah's perspective view? What does the Torah comes to teach us? Now, the Torah comes to teach us. The purpose is that we should analyze these concepts and slowly to see how can I apply this concept into my life. Now, in a general manner, sometimes it's a specific the book, sometimes it's not. So therefore, that's why we have commentaries sometimes outside of the class, after the main class, certain commentaries to see how we can apply in the day-to-day life situations these concepts. Let's see. In the last class, this is a little bit of an introduction. In the last class, we spoke about the idea of trusting God. How do I build trust in God? And we mentioned that the main focus of trusting God is that when I understand that everything is nullified, everything is under the supervision of Hashem, every single detail of the life, every single moment of my life, every single second, and even though a situation can be negative to my eyes, that is handled and is in the control of the Creator. So therefore, I can feel that I'm not in control of the situation. There is a higher being in control of the situation. This is obviously it's not an easy task, because sometimes we really want to be in control of the situation. Comes the Torah and teaches us that it's not really the reality. That's not the reality. The reality is that everything is in control of Hashem. Obviously, these ideas are related to Bechira Chavshis. Welcome, Timothy. These ideas are related to the topic of so do I have a real free choice, or do I don't have a real free choice? That's for another class. The idea is that every single detail, every single thing that happens in the world is managed, and the control is someone else is running it. Who is the runner of the world? The Creator. Okay. So let's continue in this chapter. It says like this: thus, by way of the contemplation in divine providence, which brings us to trust in God, when I really take time to meditate. What is contemplation? Contemplation is not only it's really to see something in depth. When I really take time, at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes of my day life, to think about how the detailed supervision of God is present. It exists. So therefore, this will bring me to trust in God. Why? Again, because he's the one in control, and whatever happens, even though it can be negative to my eyes or not negative, something that I don't really want, can be positive, but it's like it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So therefore, one can also control the challenging trait of anger. Look how anger is intrinsically connected to the idea of being in control. So we will discuss a little bit more about this. Anger is the worst trait that a person can have. It's not something simple. Someone can steal. The Torah says, okay, it's not good. Someone can be jealous. Okay, it's not the best. It's not the best because it leads you to other things. Someone can be, God forbid, a murderer. It's not okay. But what is the worst thing? Anger. How come? How come there's people that they get angry and not necessarily they are damaging other people? They are angry with themselves or anger about a situation. You know, the people sometimes they fight with the wife. Oh, you have a fight with the wife. Or someone is more smart. What's he gonna do? He's gonna take the car and he's gonna go to drive in order to relax all the nerve-wracking situation. He doesn't say nothing to the wife. Doesn't say nothing anymore. There's a situation, he goes. But still, he's angry. What is the problem with anger? What is this problem? What is this quality of the anger that the Torah totally rejects it? It says, because it causes him to lose his rational thinking and self-control. Oh. The Torah the Torah teaches us that a human being was created in the very image of God. And we learned in other classes, the first classes, that the image of God is a reflection of the divine attributes of God. God reveals himself through wisdom. God reveals himself through knowledge. God reveals himself through understanding. These three attributes are found also in the very structure of the soul of the human being. And then our body, our brain, translates this into a cognitive capacity, and the capacity of understanding things, the capacity of creativity, the capacity of understanding topics, the capacity of analyzing things, what we call the rational. Anger is such a thing that takes completely out of you that capacity. It takes even your very self. And that's why people, when they are in a moment of anger, they do things that usually they won't do it if they were calm. They won't do it. They are analyzing, wait a second, no, I can do it. One interesting example is like a woman came to a rabbi and asked him, Rabbi, my kid is very annoying. He does a lot of silly things. Not correct. Am I allowed to patch him? Patch him is to give him a patch in Yiddish. The rabbi tells her, basically you are. You're allowed. Patch him right now. Give him a patch right now. The woman's like, but Rabbi, right now I'm not upset. Right now it's not necessary. So the rabbi told her, did you hear the words that you just came out of your mouth? Right now, I'm not upset. So that means that you need to be upset in order to discipline or educate your child. What has to do one thing with the other? Since when education is anger? It needs to be only through anger. So what's the answer? the Rabbi also told her, make a list of all the things that really bother your child bothers. So make it right now. And she didn't find really a list. She couldn't write a list. How come also? Because in the moment that you are relaxed, in the moment that you're not upset, you don't find nothing upsetting, nothing that makes you angry. So what happened later is that in the moment that you want to patch the kid, what is really happening? That you are giving permission to yourself now to patch the kid. How come before you don't patch him? It's because I'm relaxed. Oh, that means when you are upset, you are really giving permission to yourself to do something that you wouldn't do if you were relaxed. Now the topic is not if we are allowed to discipline the kid or not. Obviously, you need to, a kid, and a student needs education, needs certain discipline. If there is no discipline, so that's no education. That's a spoiling. In his anger, he gives control of himself over to another power. Which power? The sages call this power the evil inclination. And he fails to prevent himself from doing what he will sooner or later see was a foolish way to speak or act. The sages, they teach us a very deep, a very simple, but deep at the same time teaching in the Talmud. It says the following: a person only sins, commits a transgression, meaning he does his own will instead of doing the will of God, if a spirit of foolishness comes inside of him. Sounds very mystical. Spirit of foolishness comes inside of us and takes us. And then, what is this? Spirit is translated as in a psychological language would be a trait. Something that pushes you, an instinct. An instinct that takes you to a place where your rational capacity of human being, the smart person, is not there. It doesn't exist there. And this is the reason why great professors, big people with great brains, sometimes they do the worst things. You cannot imagine how come. How is it possible? Because anger takes you to a place where there is no thinking. There's no calculations. So like the person that comes to the judge and they tell them, I really didn't calculate. It really wasn't me when I did what I did. Well, now the judge is like, well, too bad. Now you really need to face the what you deserve because of your actions. Because at the end of the day, you didn't calculate. In his heat of the moment, calls it the book, the heat of the moment, his evil inclination shows him a vision of the sweetness that will come from hurting or harming the person who wronged him. But in fact, the primary damage from his anger will come back upon his own head. In the moment that the person gets angry, at someone in the street or in the bus. The many situations in the bus or in the job. What is the main purpose when you want to argue with someone and you have a heat in the moment? What is the main point? I need to put my own ego over the other. And I need to try to find anything that I can, at the end, hurt him. And he gets quiet and I win. So sometimes, and it happens in our very days when debates became very famous on YouTube and different platforms, sometimes you see that both of the smart people, if they're smart, actually, the people that's debating, smarmy people, they end up argumenting themselves with ad hominem arguments. Repeating myself. They are not fighting ideas anymore. Now they are attacking themselves. Their very self. What causes this? Anger. The Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, in the book of Tanya explains, why do we get angry? What is the main idea of getting angry? What is this reaction that we have in the moment that we're upset about something? But why? Why it bothers me so much? Why when this guy comes and I'm driving and he puts himself in the middle, in front of me, I get upset? How come when I'm looking for a place where to park the car and there is no place, and then suddenly someone takes the place, I get upset? Or to my kids, how come when they are talking and they argue to me, I get upset? It's like, how dare you answer to me? How come? Why? Why is that nature that makes us feel superior over the other? And that's the answer of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe explains the human soul has an element, which is the element that brings the gaiva. Gaiva in Hebrew means that the person feels his ego. He feels himself. So not only that he feels himself, he puts himself over other things. Arrogancy, negative pride. So when a person gets angry, explains the Alter Rebbe, it's because he feels superior to the other entity. He feels that that place in the parking lot, it really belongs to me because I came earlier, because I'm really belongs to me. Because the individual feels superior. Why? When someone is speaking to us, or when we are speaking, and someone is over speaking in big volume, why do we get upset? Because now that he's not respecting my space. Which space? The speech. It's talking over me. Everything has to do at the end of the day with me, my ego, myself. So everything really that we don't like, and someone does it to us, what is going to be the answer? Angry. Automatically. Why? Because I deserve it. Oh, wife, you didn't prepare the food in the moment that I told you you didn't do it. Because why? I deserve it. I wake up every day. I work hard and I do this, I do that, and I bring to home so I can. Why? Because I did it. I deserve it. How do we deal with it? Therefore, the sages said, the sages of the Talmud, they said, anyone who gets angry is like a person that serves idols. Is like a person that serves idols. Why? This is even worse from when we were being explaining. So now, from a monotheistic point of view, a person that gets upset is like a person that serves idols. How come? Rabbi, so that means I'm now, if I really wanted to, I really want to be authentic monotheistic person that believes in God and knows that God is in control. That means I'm not supposed to get angry for nothing. What is this, such a thing that you're asking from me? Let's see. What are the sages are trying to teach us when they say that a person that gets angry is like a person that commits idolatry? Why? Because during the time of his anger, he abandons his faith and trust in God, and sets himself up as the final judge of the situation. In the moment that I get angry, I'm forgetting that there is someone higher than me, that he is really the one in charge. In the moment that I get angry because X or Y situation, is because I think that I am the one who's in charge of the X and Y situation. I think. So therefore, God is not existent in that moment for you. Obviously, he exists. Who is really the one who feels himself? And certainly everything that happens around that situation, it really affects you emotionally, affects you in all the senses. You feel everything. You don't feel that you are subordinated to God. You feel that the world is subordinated to you. So therefore, it should be according to your thinking, according to your plans. This is also what happens. We usually in the men, we make plans ahead all the time. When we get a situation, we have this capacity of making a plan right away. A, B, C, D. I'm gonna do it like this in this hour. And then you make a plan. This is for marriage people. By an example for marriage people. We make the plan. It happens to everybody. Make a plan, man. This is our nature. The psychological nature is to make plans in this way and quickly. We don't need 2 hours, 3 hours. No, we do it. Comes the wife and tells you, by the way, today at this hour, I need an appointment with the doctor. But you already made a whole plan throughout the day to what are you going to do? So what is the reaction? How was the boss? Why you didn't tell me yesterday? How come? Why? Because I am thinking that the whole world is going to be around me, around my plans. And at the end of the day, very smart from the man. It's a nice quality because the man is supposed to make plans. A man that doesn't make plans, so it needs help. But when we plan something, we need to do it thinking in the back of our heads, thinking that this is just, it's not absolute, that it can change. And whatever changes is the will of Hashem. Is he running the world? He's the one who's running the course of the things. Because who am I really? I'm just really this little guy in this city that has thousands of inhabitants, one little person in the whole planet, and I'm supposed to have every single thing planned, every single thing. It really doesn't make sense. It doesn't depend on me. I'm gonna be on the time of my job, and suddenly, God forbid, an accident or a guy, he doesn't have gas anymore. He needs to call the people to take him out of the street. Now what are you gonna do? You're gonna lose your head, and you're gonna start trying to get ahead of people and come faster. That's the way how the accident happens. This is how his evil inclination is able to become a false god over him, enticing him to bow down to its negative influence. When the sages speak about negative influence and the negative inclination is our own ego. That sense of I exist, I need my life, my house, my situation, everything mine. And this is the problem of our generation. Everything is iPod, I this, I do, I. Everything is how I identify myself. If you go up the radio, what is the topic about? all the time. How the individual presents himself and wants to be recognized by others. This is the news of our times. Now, an upright person will keep this in mind and to strive to constantly submit his will and actions to be aligned with God's will and wisdom. He grants God dominion over himself to be a servant of God in all situations. One should keep prepared in his mind that there can be two negative causes for anger. So actually, the book will bring two causes. Number one, a lack of consideration that whatever happens as an actual event in the world is from God's divine providence and his will. Again, when I forget, when I'm not aware that whatever is happening is God's will and his divine providence guiding every single detail of the life of the world, not only mine, everybody. So therefore, if I forget this, eventually I will come to anger. An angry person is not trusting that God has a higher purpose and intention that can be brought out from the occurrence which he gets angry about. Meaning, when you're angry, you don't really see what is the outcome of the situation that is happening. And sometimes later you really see it and you say like, oh, how come I got angry? At the end of the day, this was actually the best thing that needed to happen. It was really silly. This was foolish. But sometimes you are in an argument with a person, with an argument with a wife or a friend, and at the end of the day, you really see that the friend, the wife, or that individual was the one who was actually right. And then you are like, you want to put yourself under the ground because now you see that you were just being egotistical. You were just being yourself. Number two, the person's arrogance, thinking of himself as an independent power. So we saw first, if a person thinks that he's the one in charge, he's the one in control, and he's not aware that God is the really one in control, so therefore he will come to anger. Now, number two, if you think about yourself as an independent power, so you will become angry at anything that encroaches on his influence, honor, authority, or opinions, anything that affects the value, the self-value that you give to yourself. I don't know if I'm repeating myself. Excuse me if I'm repeating myself in English. Anything that affects what you feel and what you value about yourself, that is also going to make you angry against that thing. And even more so, if you feel about yourself a separate entity, why do you have money? Because I worked very hard. Why am I smart? Because genes, because talent, because and where all that comes from? Obviously, it's me. Okay, why you are successful? Well, because I'm a talented guy, I'm smart, I'm a person. Why you are everything? Why you? Because me. Because me. Because me. But the Torah really teaches us that all these qualities and all these capacities and the talents and the luck really come from the same source, one source, God himself. A person that is not aware of this, so therefore he considers himself the source and the fountain of all the good things that he has and all the things that he has success to reach. And yes, there might be people who believe in God. Okay, I believe in God. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I go to this temple. I go to the other. I'm not a person that doesn't believe. But it's still, there is God. There is also me. God is in the synagogue. God is during the Torah. That is also me. In my own life. It's two different things. To think it this way is what the sages teaches us is it's a very subtle way of idolatry. Because you're putting yourself as a power besides the only power that really exists. And this is what the Torah teaches. The only entity that exists authentically is only Hashem. And us, we're only a reflection of himself. So therefore, my own entity is dependent all the time, every single instant of God. My entity and the qualities and the details of my entity. In summary, anger and pride go hand in hand. And both are the evil outcomes of a person's arrogance, which separates him from God and misleads him to place his trust in himself. In the other side of the coin, humility and tolerance are the traits of a person who trusts and believes in God alone and knows that everything comes from him. With this knowledge, he should be able to receive anything from God with forbearance and happiness. 2 points should be mentioned to conclude this discussion. First, the path of full faith in trusting God, which is described here, is the ideal. And in truth, it can be an awesome challenge to achieve and maintain. We're not saying, that's all, guys. We figured it out. Why we get angry. And now, no more angry anymore. Tomorrow, after this class, everything is going to be for you. Only roses and happy songs. Torah tells us, no, let's be realistic with the feet on the ground. It's not going to be an easy path. It's not easy. It's not easy. Not at all. But the cause of the greatest challenge in avoiding anger or other loss of trusting God is that every person is biased and not objective about himself. Why? Because of his natural inclination to self-love. What makes me, what is this fight that I will have between not getting angry at a situation, not getting upset in a situation, and yes, getting angry is because by nature I'm created that I need to value myself. I love myself. How come there's people that you know they are not right? You know they are not right. We know, according to psychology, according to all the different details, all the different actions and way of thinking, how they speak, how to speak to the other people, they're not right, you know. And you tell them once, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, how come they're wrong? And they don't know, they don't see it. They don't accept it. How come? Because of the love that the person has of himself. And the same apply to us. Example, again, in the marriage, in the relationship, sometimes a friend tells you, you are running here and you don't see it. And you're like, like, what do you mean I'm wrong? It's not over here. You are crazy. Or the wife, look, you are like this. And you're like, you are crazy. I'm not really like that. Shlomo Melech, Shlomo the king, already he explained this idea in the Tanakh. He put it in these words: Al kol peshaim techase ahava. The love covers all the mistakes. Sounds romantic, huh? That's what that's. So, in what context is written? That when you click with a person to be friends, to have a good relationship, you don't really see the mistakes. Only later. One side relationship, the relationship between a man and a woman. When you fall in love, What does it mean you fall in love? You don't see the mistakes that the person does or the defects. Yes, you see them, but you cover them completely. You ignore them. You say to yourself, I can handle it. I can handle it. It's okay. It's not that bad. That's the main context. See, this comes and teaches us. Let's make a zoom in the vertical and let's see what we can teach to ourselves from that vertical. Al kol peshoim techaseh ahava. So all the mistakes, cover them with love. Jesus teaches that the person, when he has his own defects, his own mistakes, his own things that deeply he knows he's not okay, and he has traits of characters that are not okay, and his actions are not okay, but he has so much love for himself that he will cover it. He will cover it completely. So when a person says that he doesn't really value himself, it's quite of the opposite. What is called today in the psychology a low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is so much esteem of the person that he's so focused on himself. Low self-esteem of psychology from the perspective of the Torah is actually that person esteems himself so much that he's totally focused on himself and he doesn't accept nothing negative because he loves himself so much. And actually, the approach of psychology today, there is this doctor, I don't remember, professor of psychology, that he's asking a question. He writes in a book and he's asking a question. Maybe all the theory that we made around the modern psychology, maybe we should put it in a different way. Until this very day, psychology is all about, I'm not saying in between brackets, I'm not saying that psychology is something that you should reject it completely. No, that's not the idea. But it's analyzing the idea of the ego. That's the following. Until now, all the theories and the practice of psychology, until modern psychology, the modern days of psychology, is based on the self. It's based on the me and the I of the person. It's how he feels, how he reacts, how the person is about the person. But maybe we made it wrong, because what happens, even though after a person, he brings it in the book, I don't remember exactly. Even though he says, after a person we were being taken care of that person for a certain time, and we apparently saw an improvement, the person just comes back in even worse sometimes to certain situations. So what happened here? We thought that putting attention in the necessities and of the self, we will resolve the problem. But it doesn't look like this. It looks like actually we're making worse the problem. It's just making more, the problem is more deep now. And he says maybe the problem is that we are focusing too much in the self. Maybe we should make it totally pumfakert with in Yiddish, the opposite. Maybe we should teach the person not to focus in the self and to focus in other selves around him. And that will help him not to be focused in himself. So therefore, he will have the capacity to get out of situations that he's found in. And this is something that it brings the Hasidic works of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya and the other 6 rabbis in Chabad. It's an idea that comes from Kabbalah and teaches us that what is the source of all evil? The feeling of myself. when I feel myself. An example that brings Hasidus. Do you feel the energy that you have in your body? No. The life, the vitality, the clinical vitality that we have in the body, and us, my consciousness, we don't feel it. We know it exists, but we don't feel it. Okay, so what would happen if you feel your heart inside of your body pumping? What are you gonna do? You're gonna get all excited, wow, I feel my heart, or you will go right straight to the hospital? Option B is obviously the right option. You need to go to the hospital because you are not supposed to feel yourself. You are not supposed to feel the organs inside of you. You are not. And if you do it, something's wrong. So the very sense of feeling myself is not okay. It's not good. And it leads me automatically to feel superior over other entities, other people, other individuals, other things, situations. So the cause of the greatest challenge in avoiding anger or other loss in trust in Hashem is that every person is biased and not objective about himself because of his natural inclination to self-love. I love myself. I like myself. I don't want to suffer this. I don't want this type of food. I don't want this situation. I want everything going smoothly for me. Therefore, everyone needs a trusted personal advisor. This is one of the advice of the book, who is a wise and God-fearing person to whom he can turn for objective advice about his personal issues and the things that upset him. In Hebrew, this is called a mashpia. A mashpia is like a spiritual mentor. Secondly, every trait of a person can be redirected for good, and the correct intention for the emotion of anger is that one should direct it towards his own evil inclination. So, the Torah teaches us that everything that Hashem created is good. So now I might think, so evil is not good. One of the psukim, one of the biblical texts is there is not bad things coming from God, from Hashem. He created evil. He created the ego. He created the evil inclination. Now, we don't understand how this is something good. But the Torah gives us a little bit of a glimpse. How, if God created me with this trait of character, with this inclination to get angry, why? Am I supposed to completely take it out of my traits? Or maybe there is a higher purpose. So it says the following. The correct intention for the emotion of anger is that the person should direct it to be upset with his own evil inclination. What we call today self-reflection. It's called dim becheshbon. Dim becheshbon in the Chazal is called dim becheshbon, a calculation of my actions. In Hasidic and in other lexicons, it's called cheshbon nefesh, a calculation of the actions that I've done. So I'm going to share with you some of the advices that bring the Hasidic works. For example, a person should make cheshbon nefesh, a self-reflection of what he did wrong and good do throughout the day, the whole day, before going to sleep. And he needs to decide on himself that tomorrow he's going to be a better person. He's not going to repeat the same actions, and he's going to improve. That's one of the ways. Another way is doing it. Another very auspicious moment is to do it in the day of the birthday, to analyze what he accomplished in a positive way, in a positive manner during the whole year, and to also to think which things were not okay. Everybody knows which things were not okay, and to decide that the next year is going to improve over those things. Now, sometimes we're in situations that are very upset. And this is what it teaches us, Hasidus. Learn that you're not completely guilty when you get upset. How come? Because it's an evil inclination. The human being, what is his nature? What is his authentic nature? Let's create. Hashem created the human being with his very image. So what is your real nature as a human being? You are divine. Your purpose is divine. You are. Be'emes. In the real picture, when God looks at you, he sees himself. He sees a reflection of himself. So therefore, you need to get upset with that part of you that was put there to make things fair. You need to get upset with the negative side. And tell yourself, okay, what am I doing? When you get upset, and it's something that is practiced in Hasidism, it's called bitush. What's bitush? Why am I getting upset? Who am I? It's a type of reflection. You can say to yourself, who am I now to be upset at this situation? The world is not my world. I'm not the king of the world. I didn't create it. I didn't create the situation out of nothingness. How Hasidus teaches us one of the base of Judaism is that Hashem is creating the world every single instant from nothingness. So I'm not creating the world. So therefore, it's okay. I'm not in charge. So what am I getting upset? Why? There is an interesting nigun in Ukrainian, Italy, in Chabad nigun. It says, it comes from the verse of the pasuk of the text, biblical text, Eid Samo Lecho Nafshi, Koma Lecho Vesori. David, the king, he's saying, my soul, my being is thirsty from you, God. Koma Lecho Vesori. And also, I came to such a point of desiring you that also my very flesh wants you. What is the novelty that is saying David the king? What does the flesh wants? The flesh wants things that feed the flesh. To eat, to sleep, to enjoy physical enjoyments, nice vacation. No, I'm not saying vacation is wrong. A nice vacation. That's what the flesh wants. It's okay. It's the nature. David the king, he came to such a point that even his own flesh desired spirituality, divinity. And so it says the nigun, nafshi, my soul is thirsty for you. And then it says, and also my very flesh is also thirsty for you. And then it says more or less in a Ukrainian, what are you doing in the market? What are you doing in the market? Hey, you. It's like talking to the evil inclination, to this little silly guy that is around the market. It's just, like people that they go to the supermarket, but they don't really have nothing to buy. They're just doing that, I don't know, to be around. And it says, means, you understand it? You understand Vitaly? You are not, it says, you don't buy, you don't sell, you're only doing silly things. Shtuyas, shtusim. What is this? What is this Hasidic melody? This is our inclination. He's silly. He likes to put us in situations. And so in the moment that you see that he's doing those things to you, you're the one who needs to talk to the evil inclination and tell him, what are you doing? Your purpose is to bring me to higher places in spirituality, not to put me down. What are you doing? Do what you need to do. With the help of Hashem, we will continue discussing in the teachings of this book, The Seven Gates of Righteous Knowledge, and we will start the chapter number 4.